everyone, and welcome to the 3 Off the Tee podcast. It's Ian here. This is episode 75, and to celebrate our 3/4 of a century, we are going to give you a great interview here with the great Tony Jacklin, Ryder Cup royalty, golfing royalty. He's here to chat about his new book, Tony Jacklin, My Ryder Cup Journey. This was co-written with sports journalist Tony Jimenez. Tony got in touch with me about January time, I think, and asked if we'd like to get involved and to chat to Tony. Sure, of course we did. It was a kind of a knee-jerk reaction. Yes, when can we do it? Day, night, we don't care. It'd be just such an honour. So we recorded it in late March, I think. Harry and I try to keep these episodes, if we can, to about 50 minutes an hour. We feel it's kind of long enough, and I think a lot of the other podcasts do it for the same reason. But I suppose with Tony, it was just so enjoyable getting his insights on golf, going from the 60s up to the present day, his thoughts on the Saudis, the live golf, equipment technology and all the rest, and the players that are out there. Was just so enjoyable. We really could have chatted to him for ages afterwards. One of the Ryder Cup's greatest ever players, the United States' greatest ever players, Paul Azier, was asked to give the foreword, and he jumped it, and his opening words were, "Tony Jacklin changed the Ryder Cup forever." And if that doesn't grab your attention, I don't know what will. So it really is a really thoroughly good book. It's available from all major bookstores. You can get it from Amazon and direct from the publishers, who are Pegasus, Elliott Mackenzie, and I suggest that you get it. Lastly, a massive thank you to Tony Jimenez for getting in contact with us and just allowing us the opportunity to have a chat with Tony Jacklin. Harry and I were thrilled to be asked, and Tony might not know that we were really thrilled and honoured to be able to have a chat with Tony Jacklin. So please sit back, relax, and listen to the greatest Ryder Cup, I suppose, icon, along with Mr. Nicholas and probably Samuel Ryder, in Ryder Cup history, Mr. Tony Jacklin.
Hello, everyone, and thanks again for tuning into the 3 Off the Tee podcast. We have a very special guest today, golfing royalty. In fact, so Harry and I are very excited about today's pod. First of all, Harry, how are you, my good man? 2 weeks to Augusta. We'll be there. Can't wait.
Yeah, very exciting, Ian. It's coming to a great time of year, I suppose. I was out golfing myself this morning, and a real spring day with a bit of sunshine. So in this part of the world, people are dusting off the clubs, and as you said, Augusta signifies the start of the golf season for so many of us. But yeah, exciting. Looking forward to seeing you in the flesh over there in what did you say, 2.5, 3 weeks time. So yeah, it's going to be very exciting. I know it's going to be your first trip, so I'd say you can't wait.
Can't wait. Counting down the days. It's like Christmas here. I've got 2 little kids, but and in the lead up to Christmas, it's usually pandemonium, but I can certainly understand it now. It's like being at Christmas when you're a 6-year-old. Can't wait to go.
Good stuff.
Okay. All right. Now, normally at this time, I would go through a brief bio of our guest, but this person really needs no introduction. He's kindly given us some time today to talk about a range of topics in the golfing world, and also his new book, Tony Jacklin, My Ryder Cup Journey, written with Mr. Tony Jimenez. Mr. Tony Jacklin, sir, delighted to have you on, and it's great to have you.
Thank you. Nice to be with you, lads.
Yeah, great to see you, Tony. We're going to dive straight in. We were attempting to have this a couple of weeks ago, and it was right around the time where you were hitting some of the news headlines with all the big stuff that was going on in the world of golf. There was topical issues, I suppose, at that time. It was Phil Mickelson's comments. It was Saudi golf leagues. It was other golf leagues. We've had a couple of letters being published over the last few days as well. What's your thoughts on where it's all going, Tony? There's a hell of a lot going on there at the moment. Some of it we're a little bit sure about, but much of it we're not so sure about. What's your thoughts?
Well, I've been, as you have, I'm sure, trying to keep up with the social media on it all. One of the big questions that hasn't been answered, that I'm curious about, is we've picked the two Ryder Cup captains now, and they keep talking about Ryder Cup, and if you can't pick the best players to play on your team, it's not going to be the Ryder Cup that we all know and love. I mean, it's going to be a glorified exhibition match. I mean, Jay Monahan, who's a friend of mine, has threatened anybody that joins the league, the Live League, that they won't play the PGA Tour again. Now, whether or not he's capable of doing that, who knows? So it's and Greg and Phil, of course, have been in cahoots setting this the Saudi thing up, and there's no backing off there. I'm pretty much sure of that. They've just announced a schedule of 8 events, and the prize money and all the rest of it. The only thing they haven't got yet is players. But still, my big concern is Ryder Cup central to this. Stenson's just accepted the captain's role for Europe, and America was already set with Zach Johnson. So, but nobody's saying anything about the team. I mean, the only person in my lifetime that's been invited to play on the Ryder Cup and not turned up was Tom Weiskopf in 1977, when, as far as he was concerned, it was a foregone conclusion who was going to win, and that sort of changed. That was when Nicholas wrote the letter after those matches at Lytham and suggested Europe be involved. And subsequent to that, obviously, Europe has been involved all the time. So it's the answer to that question is still hanging. Nobody's addressed it, to my knowledge. And if in fact Jay Monahan, the commissioner, sticks to his guns and the courts see it the same way he does, I don't know what we're going to end up with as far as the future of the Ryder Cup. So it concerns me. I think Norman has chosen his words very carefully in his back and forth with media and the PGA Tour. I think Mickelson obviously, regrettably, was a bit overly forceful with his thoughts, but it became abundantly clear that the tour wasn't doing as much as these two thought it should for the players. And subsequently, there's been a shake-up there. The tour are sort of scrambling to find more money, and they've added a golfer as opposed to a businessman to the 9-man committee. Now it's they've got 5 golfers and 5 businessmen on their sort of committee, a decision-making committee. It's up in the air. It's what it is, and we're not going to know the bottom line until I think they're going to have lawyers involved, and I think it's inevitable if nobody backs down. I mean, the tour doesn't seem to want to accommodate the Live Golf situation, and it's going to end up as a stalemate that needs to be sorted in the courts. That would be my view on it at this stage.
Yeah, I think so. I think what we have learned, or I think it would be safe to say, that Live Golf don't seem as if they're going to go anywhere anytime soon. It looks as if they have enough about them and have done enough kind of work and have put enough people on their team and in the right places that this option for players is not going to go away anytime soon. I suppose, as you said, it remains to be seen. A lot of players have been quite kind of clever and coy, I suppose, about not necessarily committing one way or the other. They probably need to see more facts. And as you mentioned, we've seen the first tranche of 8 tournaments that are going to be held all around the world. And look, as time goes on, I think it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out. Ian, what's your thoughts on it? We've had chats before.
Yeah, well, no, it's similar to what you're both saying. I suppose I just wanted to ask Tony. Golf evolves. We had the European Tour. It was at Great Britain and Ireland when it started, and then it moved to Spain. It moved to Egypt. It moved around the world. It's now the DP World Tour. So things do change. But Tony, do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing that it might be another kind of a tour, another kind of a league? Never mind all the rest of it.
You can't stop progress. I mean, it's very difficult for me as I'm 77 years old now. I was playing for first prizes of, in Europe when I was in my pomp, but first prizes were £2,000 and now they're millions of dollars. And all of these young fellas today are extremely wealthy. I mean, wealth beyond, my imagination, really. I mean, playing as I did at the time I did, in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s. It's impossible for me to get my head around, the money that's available in golf. I mean, we couldn't get on television, for example, back in my day, so it restricted, what we played for. Now you're talking tens of millions. I mean, the numbers that they're talking about, it just blows me away. And so I think every player has got to, decide what he wants to do for his own circumstance, from his own circumstances. I mean, the likes of Westwood, who, his career, in the mainstream is winding down. Maybe he'll sign with this new deal, but it's all up in the air, is what it is, and it'll take time to sort it out, and we've got to be patient with it.
Tony, you speak of money in the game, and like I said, look, your time on the main tour was in a different era and at a different time, and without any of us sounding bitter about the level of money that's in the game, but we look at the Players' Championship, which only finished the other night, and a prize fund of 20 million for a championship, which no doubt is the pinnacle or flagship event on the PGA Tour. But no matter what anyone says, it's not a major. It's frightening, the money that's available to play for. Is that always a good thing? Again, like I said, I'm not asking you, like, you played in a different time, but like we see it on the European Tour. Sometimes players decide not to play or defend a season-ending tournament in Dubai because it just doesn't fit their schedule, and they're tired after playing 18 tournaments in a calendar year, or won't come and defend a national open, an Irish Open, which for years was a massive tournament, but maybe won't come and play in it because the prize fund is only somewhere in the region of $500,000. We have to be careful what we wish for, but do you think in ways that kind of money to a certain extent has taken a little bit away from the game that you knew and the game that we know growing up?
Yeah, I mean, there was, when I made or tried to make my schedule, I always played more than I should. You ended up going places you shouldn't have probably gone, and of course there's certain courses that suit your game more than others, and I just didn't get on certain courses, so I ultimately decided I wouldn't go to these places anymore. But money obviously is a huge factor. I mean, we work to make money, to secure things for our family. One of the things that makes me smile is it's not about this generation. I mean, what they're doing, a lot of these guys, is they're setting their children and grandchildren up for a future that they never have to work, and that's troubling in a way. Unless these are very, very smart people and very smart kids, life has to have a purpose, and going forward, you can only live in one house and drive one car at a time. I mean, I don't know how many homes, but there seems no end to it. Satisfying this need of greed, whatever you want to call it, for financial security. I would suggest that they're all pretty financially secure. I mean, Cam Smith, it was interesting. I made me smile. One of the commentators over here interviewed him before. This was before he won the Players last week, and they said, "Oh, what would you do if you won 15 million FedEx?" He said, "Well, actually, it wouldn't make much difference at all because I'm pretty much set." And here's a guy who's not a superstar. He's a great character, laid back Aussie, and pretty much set. Tells you everything you want to know, and he's going to be more than pretty much set. The way he strokes the ball on the green. So it's a fascinating thing altogether. And if you want to take that sort of financial route and look at that and talk about sports washing and all this, that, and the other, everybody's got an opinion. Individuals have got to do what they feel comfortable doing, but I've got a 30-year-old, my youngest son, playing mini tours. He's been playing mini tours for 10 years, trying to get on the main tour. I wish some of this money tumbling into the game would, create more opportunities for. There's so many terrific young players here in Florida, the Sunshine State. I mean, they got tournaments, mini tours going in Orlando and around, and my lad's on the road the whole dang time chasing, actually playing for his own money. I mean, basically, they put 600 in, and if they're lucky and getting the top four, they take a couple of thousand out. But I mean, it's peanuts compared with what they're throwing at the big names. I mean, all the money's going to the guys who don't need it, quite frankly. Not going to make a scrap of difference to how they live, what they're doing.
Tony, if we can go back a good few years, when we look at 1969, obviously that infamous year. Your best finish, I think, of the Open, I think you played there in 63, and your best finish, I think, was a fifth, and then 1969, it's Max Faulkner, I think, was the last since at Portrush, actually, maybe years beforehand. So can you talk us through that week? It seemed to be a great time to be alive, a great time to be in sport. The 60s, the Beatles, you then winning, and obviously the US Open the following week. But can you just talk us about winning the Open Championship and how it felt after so many years? And it's your home place, it's your home event.
Well, I was playing full time, more or less full time on the US tour, and then I got my card in 67. I managed to win Jacksonville in 68, which was big for me, especially because I was playing with Arnold Palmer and Don January the last day, and playing with Palmer in those days in America in front of the Army was not easy, and to be able to get it done in that environment was a great confidence booster for me, and it helped me with my Open win in 69. Also, I recall, coming back to the UK from the US tour. The US tour was a pretty, to American people, I was just a journeyman pro. I mean, I was putting my skills up against the best players in the world, but nobody had much of an interest in what I was doing in America. But I got back to Lytham that summer in 69, and there was a real interest in what what I was doing. I could see people had been following my efforts, and I got some nice big galleries in practice and all the rest of it. And of course, I got off to a steady start, and it built up to where I managed to hang on and beat Bob Charles by 2. But it was the enthusiasm of the fans in Britain that really carried me through that. Because I was a young man, I was 25. I suppose it's fair to say I was a bit of a show-off. You have to be. But, there was pressure there, but it was positive pressure. It was a positive energy, and I got great home support and managed to do it. So, yeah, it was a game changer. It was life-changing. A culmination of a lot of hard work. I'd been playing the British and Irish tour from 63 sort of on, making headway through that experience. And then I got the first hole-in-one on TV in 67, winning the Dunlop Masters. That got me people's attention, and I went straight up to America and got my card. The ambition for me was to be the best player in the world. It wasn't about money. I never made that money. I knew that would follow to a degree. But when I managed to win those 2 Opens and had them both for a month, I mean, I think I'm right in saying nobody from Europe's ever done that. And I was on top of the world. It was it. And I didn't expect to. I mean, I didn't sort of after that say, oh, well, that's it now, I'm done. I was running around like a chicken with no head on, for trying to be all things to all people. And that was actually the doing of me. I was spreading myself too thin, playing Australia and Japan at the end of the year when you're exhausted and should be doing other stuff, playing too much. Offers came in to do this, that, and the other. You've got to have time to recharge the batteries. I mean, the best example really was after that Open. I met with McCormack the day after, and I said, I need to go somewhere now and just chill and realize what's happened. He said, you've got no chance. Westchester Classics next week. You got to get on the plane tomorrow. You're the Open champion. And if you want to maximize what you've done, you've got to go and keep going. And of course, I came to America the next week, missed the cut the week after, missed the cut the week after. I was spent. I was absolutely spent. And to play your best golf, you have to turn up, mind and body together. It's no good the body being there and the mind being back home or wherever. This is why Nicklaus was smart, only playing 18 tournaments. And of course, Tiger learned a lot from Nicklaus in that regard. He knew that, you couldn't play, you can't play 30 tournaments a year and give it your all. It's not a possibility. We're human. And but those things, that's where I made my mistakes, spreading myself too thin, and you burn out, basically. I won tournaments through the 70s, whether it's a Scandinavian Open or an Italian Open and various other, big-ish events. But as far as majors were concerned, I was a spent force. And it was a shame. I wish if I had it all to do again, I would, well, of course, I was flying by the seat of my pants, really. I had nobody to compare what was happening to me. Nobody had done it before from Europe. Playing in America as I did, that Jacksonville Open, as I said, was the first win for any sort of Brit European for in the modern era.
At that time, Tony, was it? And I've read many books and other probably guests that we've had on, but was America a very closed shop? I mean, the US players didn't really want a lot of anyone really coming in and maybe taking their money, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, there was not the Palmers and Nicklases and Trevinas, no. But there was an element over here that resented foreign players. I mean, Gardner Dickinson, Bob Golby. There was a group of them that basically guys that didn't travel. You know, they hadn't had the benefit of life's university and going to different diverse countries and playing. They didn't have to. And it was those guys that resented, Gary Player, Bob Charles, myself, Bruce Devlin, Harold Henning at the time, Bruce Crampton. A lot of them were tough. They'd been, come through the 50s and 60s, and as I say, resented it. Not the Nicklases. I mean, Johnny Millers, they were great. You know, if you think you can play, come, you're in the right place. Yeah. But there was resentment there. But actually, in actual fact, it toughened you up. It toughened me up. You'd go in the quiet of your room at night and say, "Okay, I'm going to show you, you son of a gun." You kind of adopted that attitude. It made you tougher. So it worked in reverse as far as they were concerned.
Yeah, very good. Tony, I'm going to bring you back just a couple of minutes previous on a comment that you said about, you being probably, I don't think you used the word cocky or full of confidence, but when you played that open and the support that you found getting off the plane and coming home from America, I suppose it kind of brings me back to our own Open champion in Shane Lowry up in Royal Portrush a couple of years ago. Obviously, he got off to a great start and built momentum through the rounds, but it's the same kind of feel, I suppose, a home hero doing his thing. And just give us a sense of, how much does that carry you on? Because equally on the flip side of that, we see maybe the burden that maybe it can have on the shoulders of a Rory McIlroy trying to get a Grand Slam done, and we'll all pitch up there in a few weeks' time, and it'll ramp up again over the next 2 weeks. Everyone has expectations, and as we've known, it's into year 7 or year 8 now of Rory trying to get another major. So talk to me a little bit about, I suppose it depends on the personality and how you start or how you ease yourself into the first and second round of a tournament, whether you can bring that support with you or at times does it just feel too much?
Of course, Rory, Shane, it was wonderful to see, how he handled himself there at Portrush. Rory is and was a precocious talent, and he's got his 4 majors pretty early. That what happened to him at Augusta maybe affected him more than we think. Not getting his Grand Slam. That tee shot on 10, I can still remember it. And then his expectation for himself was. He went into this whole thing doing the right thing. He was triggered for majors. He was focusing on major championships, as was Nicklaus and as was Tiger. He thought that was the way forward. But there's been a drought the last 4 years or so, and we've all watched him. I won't say struggle, but it's there's a question mark all the time when it comes to there's no guarantee that he's going to get it done any given week. That tee shot he hit on the very first hole at Portrush with the iron out of bounds in that first round, it was clear that he wasn't mentally ready for that. He hadn't sort of put himself in the zone.
And that's what I mean. It's that, I suppose, that expectation, that pressure. It can go both ways. And as you said, it's 7 years now that we've kind of seen that expectation and pressure for Rory, be it in final rounds of not even majors, just final rounds of regular tour events, that it seems to be a bit of a burden, I suppose. Now, look, he's won everything there is to win in the game. Who are we to in any way pick the bones from Rory McIlroy's career? He's still only, 32 years of age. But as we all know, these guys are coming out younger and more ready. And I would argue, if you go back to his last major win of 2014, that the competition is stiffer and is probably fears Rory McIlroy a hell of a lot less these days than they might have done 7 years ago.
Yeah, and he's got different priorities as well. I mean, he's got a family now, and those things, and he's certainly got financial stability. I mean, he's just, whether he wins or not, it's not going to make any difference whether there's steak or chicken for dinner tomorrow night. So things are always constantly moving, and the most important thing is to stay positive. And but we change, and we don't realize it, but circumstances change and they change us. It's just the way it is. Palmer, Palmer won his last major in 1964. When he was still very, very young. But he battled and played, and he's got all that support from the army and all the rest of it. But he was a different kettle of fish to Nicholas, and won his first tournament in 62 and his last one in 86. He paced himself. And Jack, when you look at these players, I look at them, I think Jack managed his life. Whether part of it was an accident, I don't know, but he had a great family, and Barbara, of course, was an angel, and she took care of the family end of things. But then he got into the golf course design business in the early 70s. And when he was away from golf, that occupied him while he recharged the batteries. And he had this wonderful balance of sort of family, golf course design business, and golf itself. And when he came, and he focused on the majors, as we all know. It's fascinating. He played in 160 majors, Jack. Ben Hogan played in 27. Hogan won 9 of those 27. And you can draw a line. I'm telling you, when Palmer won those 2 Opens in 61 and 62, and his friend Bob Drum, who was a media man from Philadelphia, Bob Drum was a Palmer disciple. And he got all these other media people, and they rewrote the rules. The rules became, majors are the only thing that matter. Gary played in 150 or 151. Arnold played in about the same. I looked it up. I played in 41 majors. But what I'm saying here is Nicholas focusing on, majors and playing 160 gave himself a hell of a lot of opportunities. Obviously 18 is up there, and he's got the mark right now. But I still think Hogan was the best player I ever saw, and those guys in Bobby Locke. Bobby Locke didn't bother about playing in the US Open. He maybe played in a few, but it wasn't important for them. Hogan wins the Open, never defends. Snead won the Open, never defended. So it can't have been very important, to them. They were just big events. But media-wise, what Palmer did in the early 60s, and with the benefit of Bob Drum working on the media end of things, it changed the course of golf. Maybe what's going to happen next is going to change the course of it again. I don't know. None of us know what's going to happen with this Saudi League thing. So the world turns, they're not much interested over here in history, I'm afraid. But the truth of it is that but for what we did yesterday, we wouldn't be here today. And I wish they'd get their heads around that a bit better rather than worrying about tomorrow. But you can't change, you can't change people. It's difficult to change people. But history is important, and we should learn from it. I've always tried to.
I was looking at the major records on your own there, actually, Tony. You played the PGA Championship, I think, only 3 or 4 times. And that was amazing, yeah.
Yeah,
so
because
back to what you were saying earlier on.
To me, it was the weakest major. I mean, I'm not being unkind. It just in my mind. I mean, the 2 Opens were the main ones for me. The Masters, obviously came along in the early 30s, but the Opens loom large in my and as much as I'm grateful that I won the Open. The US Open was the best golf I played, and I think it's the hardest of all the 4 majors to win because they take it and put it on the edge all the time. They're messing with your mind as much as they can with the setups of the courses. And I look back, and that victory I had at Hazeltine was the best. I walked on water that week. I mean, it was best golf. I increased my lead every day and won by 7. That's apart from Tiger Woods, who won by 15 or whatever the hell it was at Pebble. It was. I was pretty happy about that.
But talk a little bit about the Ryder Cup. I suppose we better. And I want when was the Ryder Cup on your radar? What was it a tournament you looked out for every 2 years and said, I can't wait to play in that? Or was it just, look, you're playing well, you've earned enough points or enough to get on the team, and off you went?
Well, it was 1957 when I was 13. I mean, it came to Lindrick Golf Club in Worksop, which is about 50 miles, 60 miles from Scunthorpe. And I'd never seen proper professionals play. And my dad took me there. We went, and, first time I ever saw world-class players. And that was cemented in my mind what I wanted to do. It wasn't about the team thing at that time. It was just the opportunity to see the game played properly by the best in the world. And so I came back from that experience inspired and played the best 9 holes. We got home in time to squeeze 9 in and played the best 9 I ever played. But I was on track to become a pro. I mean, I had no idea that 10 years later I would be playing in my first Ryder Cup in Houston with Diaries as my captain. He was a captain in that winning team at Lindrick. But in those days, they were changing the formula every Ryder Cup to try and make it a fairer competition. But of course, America loved winning, and so they were reluctant to really, give us much of an advantage. And it wasn't until we got this now formula where we only expose 8 players out of 12 the first 2 days that we started to shine. I mean, America's always had more strength in depth, than we had, and but we showed during the 80s that given a sort of level playing field, more level playing field, we could. We're a match for them.
Tony, talking of Ryder Cups, obviously, we're very proud of Christy O'Connor Sr., Christy O'Connor Jr. I'm sure you have some fantastic early memories. We had the absolute pleasure of having Peter Allis, God rest him, on our podcast going back about 1.5 years ago, not that long before he passed away. It was one of his last interviews, and he really lit up the screen with us for about 1.5 hours talking about his life and Ryder Cup and the fun that he had. But bring me with those two guys, maybe give me a sense of what it was to be around those kind of characters back in the day in the Ryder Cup, because myself and Ian really want to hear this part.
Oh, they were great. I mean, I loved playing with Christie. I mean, he was a mentor to me. I went to South Africa in 1964 for the 8-week schedule they had there. We had a big old car that Harold Henning rented us, and we drove with Ernie Jones from Bangor and Peter Green. 4 of us drove that. It was an Austin Fairline. It was as long as I can remember it. And we had all our clubs and luggage in the back, and we drove all over South Africa. I mean, Christie was he was fantastic. One of the most natural players you're ever going to see, and what a character! Just keep him away from the lager. That was all you had to do. You could lose it a bit if you got him around too much beer. But he was great, and I loved playing with him. And of course, Junior and what he managed to do in '89 was extraordinary. I mean, you know, all the stars or superstars, you know, Faldo, Ballesteros, Woodsy, they all lost in the singles. And actually, it was Ronan Rafferty that he came through with a win on that final day. And of course, the 2-iron that was sold 25 times for different charities. It was absolute epic, and to be there with him on that 18th hole, because I mean I still maintain to this day, I mean Couples pulled his tee shot there, but he was so long, he cleared the water, and he was hitting the 8-iron in, and Christie was having to hit a 2-iron, and this was before, you know, the ball jumped like it does today, and you know it was. He outdrove Christie by 60, 70 yards, whatever it was. And that was a wonderful thing to see, and great moment for him. And of course, there was, you know, when I left him off the team in '85 as a captain's pick, he was heartbroken. He never spoke to me for years. You know, he thought I had it in for him. And I didn't. You know, the fact was, Jose Rivero, who I picked, was one of my picks. He'd won a tournament at the Belfry during that, you know, the 2-year period coming up to it. And to me, he was the one I needed to be. But putting him in, picking him for that team over, actually, I have to tell you this, Philip Walton. And Philip and I went through a difficult few times because I picked Christie in front of, you know, when you're doing this captain's picks, it's no easy task. But we had a great week. It was wonderful conclusion. Couldn't have been a better conclusion. And I mean, I breathed a sigh of relief. I mean, to get out with a half in that match with all of those, you know, top players losing on that final day was a miracle. It wasn't quite the miracle that Medina, but up to that point, it was pretty much it. Time for me to go in. That was me running. I said, "That's no more of this. I can't. You know, my nerves can't stand there." It was great.
And the Ryder Cup changing from GB&I to Europe. I'm wondering, at the time when it happened, how did a lot of the GB&I players take it? Because it was opening it up now to more players, and it was kind of threatening maybe to them that, oh God, like, I mean, it's going to be extra hard to get onto it now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. There was an element in there that didn't think it was necessary to change it to Europe. And of course, in fairness, when you were talking about Europe then, it was Spain. You know, I mean, we in '79, we had Antonio Garrido and Seve. in the team, and that was it. That was Europe. You know, the likes of Jean Gariald from France, and he wasn't a world-class player. You know, I mean, there was Donald Swalens from Belgium. There were a few sort of European countries that had Professor Flory Van Donk. We go back, but you know, to think that since we started that in '79, 14 European countries have now been individually represented. 14 different nations in Europe. I think it's an absolute remarkable, you know, what's happened. You know, and you've got the likes of Hovland, he's going to be number one soon. You know, he's just got to keep doing what he's been doing. To see the talents of Rahm, and they continue to keep, you know, spitting them out, these great champions. And it's wonderful. I love it. And every time a European wins over here, I rub my blood. It's marvelous.
And we go back to '69 again, Tony, and obviously the infamous concession. Did you have any idea at the time of how big this was going to be as it went over the years? Because it seems to have just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I mean, you know, that experience, it was a prelude. It's interesting. You know, the Ryder Cup since I played my first Ryder Cup, it's a completely different animal to what it was. But one of the things, and it was interesting, I read just 2 days ago that Norman went to the Ryder Cup in Wisconsin with his cohorts from Saudi, and they saw firsthand what team was doing, you know, amongst the players and the spectators. You know, one of the things that is, that success we had in the 80s spawned the President's Cup, the Solheim for the girls, and each one has had epic results, you know, nerve-jangling things going on. And that was actually a prelude to it all, I think, the concession. You know, Jack and I were in a position, a circumstance that, I wouldn't wish anybody in, you know, to have to go through. I mean, you've got all your teammates surrounding the final green and the results on your match, and you've got not just the pressure of your own game, but you've got the responsibility of your teammates and your captain on your shoulders as well. You don't want to let them down. And that's a hell of a lot, you know, more pressure than you feel on your own in a major championship, for example. I mean, I lost the Open in '72. I feel I lost it. You know, when Trevino jumped in, I made 6 on 17. But I'm not saying you shrug it off, but it's only you, not 12 others. And subsequently, we've seen it time and time again and players have made statements, you know, I just want to be on that team. I want to be in that Ryder Cup. I want to feel that emotion. I want to feel that kind of pressure. And they've all embraced it. So that was a prelude to, and even it influenced this, as I say, the Saudi, the team element that's come into the Saudi thing. They're going to have teams every week playing against each other because they see how much the players and the general public enjoy that. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a great sporting gesture. You know, Jack had quite a successful amateur career. You know, I knew his dad, and But that's where he formulated his sort of golfing his sportsmanship, playing amateur golf. I think, he once told me a story, where he didn't give somebody that beat him the right amount of congratulatory, and his dad pulled him up for it. And he says, that guy just beat you. You should have a good grace to look him in the eye and shake his hand and, make him feel good about himself because he beat you. And so that was, I think, in his amateur career where he formulated his sportsmanship. And I obviously, it was never a war to me, the Ryder Cup. I mean, anybody I played, even my own children, I wanted to beat them. I never let anybody beat me that, if I could help it. And I've said it many times before, if you can't, play and win, lose or draw, look your opponent in the eye and say, well played, then we've all been wasting our time. That's the beauty of golf. To me, that's what makes our game special. It turned me off soccer, I'm afraid, when some of these guys go for the player and not the ball. I mean, that's not my way of seeing fair dues. But 69 was that was special, and Jack knew I'd won the Open a couple of months before. He didn't want to see anything happen to spoil it. I think I would have made the putt. It was.
That was what I was going to ask you, actually. Was there any
2 feet? I mean, I've had a few seizures since then, I can tell you. I mean, on the senior tour, my putting got to a point where it was not pretty. But I was on the top of my game, and I think I would have made it. But the fact I didn't have to was a great relief. And of course, America tied and retained the trophy anyway. So it was a great act of sportsmanship. And I felt very honoured last year that they chose to give a sort of a Nicholas Jacklin Award, Aon Award, to 2 players from each from a player from each team. And Sergio and Dustin Johnson won that last year at Wisconsin. So that was it was nice honour.
Just reading the book and the testimonials that are there, and I've read countless other books as well. How proud are you to the fact that you changed the Ryder Cup? You changed it. The way it is now and everything was because of you.
Yeah, but as much as anything, that was timing. I mean, I'd played, I was the first sort of full-time actual pro from England. I mean, Peter Allis and Di and Max Faulkner, all those guys had jobs in the winter that they had. I didn't have any jobs. I was just playing golf for a living. And when I went to America and got my card in 67, I learned the American way. I was competitive as I could be, playing against best players in the world. And I didn't think the approach that we had for Ryder Cup when it was Great Britain and Ireland was right. I think they thought it was more important to turn up and get your ass kicked than it was to win. This old boys thing. John Jacobs in 81, before the matches started, this is the greatest American team ever assembled. I mean, well, that's, what do you think your players are going to think about a statement like that? I mean, it's a defeatist thing. And, plus we were wearing anything anybody would give us, and we were flying in the back of the bus. Self-esteem wise, we were 2 down before we ever hit a ball. And the things I was able to do, because I was teed off with officialdom, I said, I'm only going to do it if you give me the tools. Well, we want first-class travel just like they have. We want cashmere. And more important than anything, we needed a team room. I mean, we used to learn who we were playing with in the locker room, going back to 69 and through the 70s. You're playing with him tomorrow, you'll be second off, this, that, and the other. And then you could clear off and have dinner in a local restaurant with your wife or partner, whatever. I mean, it wasn't conducive to being a team, and that team room became central to everything. We had everything in there we would ever want, food and beverage and television sets, and that's where the wives and players all, and in my day, I'm sure it's not that way anymore because things get compromised, but in my day, it was only for players and wives, not for caddies and not for PGA officials. They were asked to clear off back in my day because it was a sanctuary for the players. It was their place, and in all truth, they appreciated that. I couldn't tell them how to play golf. They wouldn't have been there if they couldn't play golf. But treating them properly, and taking care of that self-esteem and making them feel like the champions they were, resulted in them responding and playing their hearts out. And that's actually what happened. So it was timing, and I was dedicated, obviously, to making their tough job as easy as I could. But you can't play for them in the end. I mean, you can only wrap them in cotton wool and give them everything that they need to get on with it. And as I say, their response was amazing. And we saw it time and time again. And we have seen since I, went my own way after the fourth time I did it. I mean, and I only went, to be honest, because I didn't want to outstay my welcome. You won't remember, but I do. Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister, and I saw people stabbing her in the back that were supposedly her friends, and I thought, Christ, I don't want that to happen to me. And I just didn't want to outstay my welcome. It was time to move on, and I'm happy I did, but I missed it. I missed doing the pairings and trying to outsmart the other captain, with the positioning of players and all that. That was the most fun I probably ever had. Being, turning the list upside down and that sort of thing was a lot of fun.
How hard was it, or how long was the conversation with Seve to convince him to play in '83?
An hour. We had an hour's breakfast. Half of it was spent with him venting, and I said, you don't have to tell me, Seve. I know what they're like. I mean, there was an amateur approach to this whole thing, and they didn't sit Seve down, and Seve was Tiger before Tiger. I mean, he was it, and he didn't feel he was getting the respect he deserved, and he wasn't. And they should have sat him down and used him as a front man for what they were doing. But he was insulted and ultimately banned in '81 because, I mean, how much did he want to win the Ryder Cup if he banned the best player in the world from playing. I mean, and he was arguably the best player in the world. Anyway, I went through that whole thing. I said, don't worry about them. They're a shower. You're never going to get anywhere worrying about that lot. You don't have to worry about them now because they've given me carte blanche to do what I want, and I can't do it if you don't. Without you, I can't do what I've got to do. And we were both winners. We had a winner's mentality. He won obviously around the world and in America. And in the end, he said, "Okay, I help you," and the rest's history. Because he was fantastic. I mean, he was totally committed to this, and he loved beating Americans. That was deep down. There was nothing better for him than beating Americans. He was every inch a winner, and he loved match play, of course, and he took no prisoners, and that was it was a big part of it. And I used him on a number of occasions in the team room, asking him to just go and give him a shoulder rub and tell him how well you think he's swinging, and he would go and do that, hey, I see you today, you swing good, huh? And he's giving all these. It was priceless, and it was great times.
Yeah, geez, your eyes light up even just telling that little nugget of a story. He was some character, and it's such a shame that he's not still around. Sevi should be a guy that should be still around and enjoying his late 60s, early 70s, whatever age he would be right now. Tony, I'm going to move it on quickly. I want to hop into obviously that time, as you mentioned, as Ryder Cup captain. 87, Eamon Darcy, another proud Irish man, a guy who we're very proud of. That win on US soil. Give us a sense of your memories of Eamon Darcy as being a Ryder Cup player.
Well, I mean, we were pals off the course. I mean, he came. Actually, after that, 87. But he came, and I lived in Scotland for a couple of years, and we went shooting together at our house. He came home and stayed, but that 4.5 footer he made down the hill at that final green to beat Crenshaw. That was it. I mean, when I think about Eamon, he was one of the great chippers. He was, obviously he had that sort of agricultural swing. We know all about that, the twists and turns in the swing and then big mitts he had. But that the nerve to make that putt, for some of the listeners who don't know, but I mean, Crenshaw kicked his putter and the head fell off early in the round, and he was putting with a wedge, blading wedges, and Eamon was able to nip him and put that point on the board that meant we couldn't lose. Ultimately, Sevi held the winning putt. I think I'm right in saying that in 87. But Eamon made it so we couldn't lose. So we were going to retain it no matter what happened. And the pressure was on, and he came through. And I would suspect, as an Irishman, it was a life changer for him being able to do that.
Yeah, no, it was. We had him on the podcast. We actually went up to his house to visit him to record the podcast. And yeah, he's very proud, and rightly so, of his career in the Ryder Cup. We've heard it told many times from maybe the next generation of players how they would always seek Eamon Darcy out for advice about the wedge game, and he was a master of the short game and one of the best wedge players on tour for many, many years. But a great character and another Irish legend in the Ryder Cup story. Yeah.
I can still see that little loop he made on those wedge shots, and I can see that old wedge he had. It was a rounded kind of head. It was a old school kind of weapon, and he wielded it very well.
And just one thing I wanted to have a quick chat with Tony, that you moved, I think, was it to the Isle of Wight at one stage for a number of years? Oh, sorry, the Isle of Man for a few years.
Jersey.
Sorry.
8 years.
Yeah. And I think income tax purposes, I was reading the book.
Driven. I didn't go there because I wanted to go there.
Yeah.
I just spent a fortune on a big mansion house in the Cotswolds, and the Labour government wanted to take 83% of my worldwide income, not my income, worldwide. And I had nowhere else. There was nothing I could do. I spent a fortune getting this house ship-shape. I had a driving range, a putting green. I had everything there I needed to sustain, and it was forever. And then they came in and drove me away. So Jersey was, that's whether or not it was the right place to be. Every time I had to play a golf tournament, I had to get on an aeroplane. So you couldn't drive from there.
But that was the reason I was bringing it up, was the 83% income tax, because I was reading Kevin Keegan's book, and my name is Ian St. John. I'm a massive Liverpool fan. And I was wondering all the way along throughout the 90s, probably 2000s, why would he leave in 77 after winning the European Cup? It was only ever going to get better. And it was because he was, at the time, he was kind of a George Best of the 70s. There was a lot of image things that he was doing as well. And 83% tax, like he said, he couldn't live. He had to go. And that's why he went to Hamburg. And 83%, I couldn't get over it, is criminal.
Well, the irony was that Bob Charles, who's a dear friend from New Zealand, he could live in London and not be touched. And here I am from there, born in the UK, and they drove me out. I mean, it was, none of those things, circumstances help, when your domestic life's in turmoil. You're trying to maintain a standard on the golf course, and you've got young family being uprooted, and it all affects you. And to think it doesn't, you're dreaming.
Tony, tell us about your life out in Florida. Are you playing much these days? Do you still have the love of the game?
No, my golf's pretty ugly these days. Actually, I've got a sore shoulder, but I just got a new set of clubs this week with medium shafts. I've been battling with stiff shafts, and I thought they were medium shafts, but they didn't. This modern world. Anyway, I'm looking forward to trying this medium shafts with a low kick point, and I play once a week with the guys. They get me out there, and sometimes I'd rather be doing yard work. I say to them, at least when I'm doing yard work, I can see the fruits of my labours. My golf's pretty ugly, so as you get older and less supple, it's difficult to make the backswing you want to make and get into some of the positions you need to get in. I've got probably 20 or 30 pounds around my midriff that I could do without as well. But, I don't, it doesn't worry me, that I can't do it anymore. I enjoy, to some degree, watching it on TV. The fact that they're hitting wedges and 9-irons into 12 holes around is not, that doesn't turn me on. I still keep waiting for the USGA and RNA to do something about the ball or the distance. They don't seem worried that these guys hit it 350 yards. They shrug. It's going to be fascinating if they get a windless week at St Andrews this summer to see some of the guys, and they'll be driving par fours. But I personally think that they've been remiss in not addressing these issues in the game over the last 15 or 20 years. I mean, Arnold, when he was around, he was screaming about it. The ball, Jack's been going at it for 20 years. Gary, I've been putting my 2 pence in, but I think they're waiting for us to pop our clogs, and they just keep on going the way they're going. It would seem to me they don't seem to worry about it, but you can't keep making golf courses longer. The challenges are just not what they were, and it's when I won the US Open and the Open, I was hitting 4 irons into par 4s on a regular basis. At Hazeltine, it was 4 irons and 2 irons on par 3s, and you used your bag of clubs. And of course, the trajectory now, you're coming in, they can dig the ball out of heavy rough with these wedges they use. You couldn't hit a 6 iron and 5 iron out of stuff that they drive it into. But it's a muscle game. It's just smash and grab. There's no finesse anymore. It's who putts. I mean, putting was obviously always a big thing. But the greens are perfect now. I played 1 year in my life when we could tap spike marks down in Europe. All the rest of the time, you had to live with the spike mark rule. You could hit a perfect shot in 6 feet and have 3 spike marks in your line, and you just had to shrug about it. There's no you ground your club in a penalty area. It's not a hazard anymore. It's a penalty area. All these bloody things they do, I just don't know what progress. I don't know whether it's made the game any better. And I don't believe the amateurs should be playing the same game as the pros. I think the pros should be. I don't think they've addressed the issues, I mean, the technology was for amateurs to enjoy the game more. You shouldn't be making it easier for the pros. They don't need it. They're skilled.
Yeah, we had Mike Kwan, the head man from the USGA, on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. And in fairness to him, he's not in that position that long, but he admitted that all through the years that they pretty much did a review on a kind of a 10-year basis, and that all parties had been guilty that they'd missed a review or two. And pretty much for the last 20 years, there hasn't been an updated set of values. And in that 20 years, we all know what happened to both the athletes and technology. And look, it sounds like, Tony, let's see what happens now in the next 12 months, but it sounds like this is a kind of a line in the sand moment. I think everyone and anyone can see that absolutely something does need to be done to secure the future of this game. And as you said, building golf courses that are 8,500 yards is not the way forward. And you're right, as a spectacle for us to watch, it's not as much fun really to kind of watch the game as it is. People complain about Bay Hill a couple of weeks ago because it got a bit kind of hard and fast on the greens, but part of us sitting at home kind of tended to enjoy it in a sadistic kind of way because we want to see the pros struggle a little bit. But look, let's see what happens. Ian, you're going to bring us to the final section. We don't want to hold Tony much longer. Tony, we usually wrap up with a little quiz section, and Ian is going to let you know all about this.
Yeah, well, what we do is, look, Tony, thank you very, very much for your time. I see we're nearly over an hour, and we just want to keep you that long. But to be honest, we could chat with you for the next 4 hours, I think, about Ryder Cup and every other sort of part of your game. Last part, we're going to do 9 holes. So we're going to ask you 9 questions on 9 holes. Now, the 9 holes would be your favorite back 9. And we'll start at 10 then, and we'll have 9 questions. Quick fire, Tony, don't worry.
Where's your favorite back 9, Tony? Pick your favorite back 9.
Tralee.
Oh, very good.
Nice, lovely.
Great answer. Great answer. Right, I'll kick it off. On the 10th hole then, the highest point of your career.
Winning the US Open by 7 shots.
Brilliant. Yeah, doesn't get a whole lot better than that.
Very good. No, this might be difficult. Maybe not. Your favorite Ryder Cup moment?
Winning on American soil in '87 for the first time.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Classic. Next hole, if there was a movie of your life, which actor is playing you?
I don't know. I wouldn't even. Never thought about it.
It's a tricky one, Tom. How about you can just be you?
Would have been maybe Tony Curtis before he, when he was in his pump.
Right. Okay. We'll go.
Very good. Very good. You're going for a swim. Do you go in the pool or the sea?
Well, I used to have a pool, but I didn't use it much, and I don't go in the sea much. So, but it would be the pool.
Oh, okay.
Very good. Next one, Tony. Myself and Ian have a time machine. As crazy as that sounds, would you like to go back into the past, or would you like to go into the future?
Oh, give me the past all day long. The past, definitely. Quality of life, everything's got diluted down and continues to get diluted down. All the past.
Yeah.
Okay. Your favorite stop on tour. So where was one you saw your schedule for the year? Which was the one you sort of sorted out and said, I can't wait to get to that?
I like Turnberry. Turnberry was a great golf course, great hotel, tough to beat, great views, great challenge, great food.
It's Turnberry, so good man.
Pretty good answer. Pretty good answer. Tony, looking back on your career now, what would you say was your greatest strength?
Driving. I was a good driver. If you can't get the ball off the tee, it's hard to. That was my strength, I think, my driving.
Good.
Okay, I've got the opposite end. Thanks to you, to Harry, for this. So, what was your greatest weakness?
Well, ultimately, it was my putting. Ultimately, but I mean, I must have been a good putter when I was winning majors. But putting is it was anxiety. I got I got to where I sort of I knew the putt was the be all and end all of everything. Everything ends with a putt. Whatever you do in golf ends with a putt. And I got it a little out of whack and created anxiety in my stroke, and it was I didn't manage to stay in the execution mode. I got into the outcome mode, and that's fatal for putting.
Very good. Tony, the last question. You've played with many people over the years. You have a choice now. We're giving you your dream 4-ball.
Well, okay. Hogan, I played with him in 1970. I touched on it earlier. He was the best I ever saw. So Hogan, Jones, who I shook his hand in '67 and never got to see him play, and my dad.
Nice, lovely.
And if he would have died and gone to heaven if he'd have got to play with Jones and Hogan alongside me.
Very good.
That's brilliant. Very good. Very good.
Four-ball, Tony. What a great four-ball. Huge thanks, Tony, for coming on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure. An hour has gone by like about 7 or 8 minutes, and we really enjoyed it. We hope you have too. I hope to maybe bump into you sometime when I'm on my travels out on the LPGA tour. We're in Florida a bit, so you never know. We might bump into each other somewhere along the way. But much appreciated. Continued good health to you, and enjoy the upcoming golf season and the majors that are coming our way.
Thank you very much. Good to be with you guys.
Thanks, Tony. Pleasure. Absolute pleasure.